Thank you for listening to Local SEO today. Please subscribe and share this episode. My guest today is Cameron Herold. He is a top business consultant, author, and speaker. After a career helping companies grow, Cameron founded the COO Alliance, the only network for the second in command. Thanks for joining me, Cameron.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I usually am not good with scripts, but
I
usually I
hate,
have a little script.
I hate scripts too. I can give a bit of a bio for myself if that's helpful, but I hate scripts too.
Yeah, so maybe share with the audience member a little bit about yourself, who you are, a little bit of backstory. What do people know you by mainly?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up in Northern Ontario in Canada in a place called Sudbury, and I was groomed to be an entrepreneur. My father and our grandparents groomed the three of our kids to be entrepreneurs. So my brother, my sister, and myself have all run our own companies for between 20 and 25 years. I ran my first real business at 21. I had 12 full-time employees and have never really stopped. I built three companies, and while I built those three companies, my best friend was watching me build two of them. And he was starting a company at the time called the Rubbish Boys. And I met Brian, who we changed the name over to 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and I came on as his second in command. I was the 14th employee in the company. When I left 6.5 years later, we had 3,100 employees system-wide. And I'd been the chief operating officer for that growth from 2 million to 106 million. Left there 14 years ago and started coaching real companies globally. Typically 50 to 500 employees are the companies that I work with. And I've coached companies now in 26 countries on 6 continents. I've done paid speaking events in 28 countries. I have written 5 books that are all on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. And 4 years ago, I started an organization called the COO Alliance, which is the only network of its kind in the world for the second in command. No entrepreneurs are allowed to join. And I also have a podcast called the Second in Command Podcast, where we only interview COOs. We don't interview the entrepreneur.
That's amazing, man. I mean, just that alone gives me so much to talk about because I have so many questions along the line. And
Sure.
I'm going to try to extract as much as I can and give some value to all the listeners today. So
Sure.
I know you mentioned your parents groomed you to be entrepreneurs. Were
Yeah.
they entrepreneurs? What kind of industry were they in? What kind of businesses?
Yeah, so both of my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. My one grandfather and grandmother, they owned a hunting and fishing resort about 2.5 hours north of Toronto.
Okay.
And then my other grandfather was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, and he built out a big pharmaceutical company across Canada. So they just were very entrepreneurial, and that was the family lessons that their kids grew up with. So my father became an entrepreneur, and at about 25, my dad owned his own business. So I grew up watching a father who operated a company. It's all I ever really knew. And at a very young age, my father encouraged us to try these little entrepreneurial ventures. So my first entrepreneurial venture, I was 7 years old. It's actually now chronicled in a talk that's on the main TED website. If you go to TED.com and look up my name, you'll see a talk that I did about raising entrepreneurial kids and just teaching kids to become entrepreneurs. So my father groomed us with these entrepreneurial traits, and he never got into the business with us. He just encouraged us, and then he would ask us what we learned, and he would encourage us, and he would ask us what we learned. It's one of my big pet peeves today when I see a mom or a dad standing out at the end of their driveway with the kid running the lemonade stand. I mean, the parents should be sitting in the house and let the kid run the business. If you want to run your own lemonade stand, run your own. So that was just kind of groomed that way.
That's amazing. So how, I know you have children yourself. How has the upbringing been to kind of push them to the entrepreneurial kind of mindset?
Yeah, so some is just getting them to solve their own problems, encouraging them to be able to speak in front of an audience, encouraging them to problem solve, encouraging them to spot opportunities and hustle with those opportunities. So they're doing a lot of flipping. My one son goes to thrift stores and buys stuff and then turns around in the afternoon and sells it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist for a profit. They're learning how to negotiate. They're learning how to market their things. One of them was doing a lot of the hustle in buying shoes and then wearing them for 3 months and selling them for more than he paid for them. So they're doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and it's great to hear this because that's what real life is all about, right? The hustle, the grind, the real spotting opportunities, buying low, selling high, negotiating. Like
Yeah,
I learned a lot of this in sales, right? And
yeah,
I
for
was
sure.
fortunate to be in a really top-notch sales environment at Yellow Pages, 7-week training with
Yeah,
2,000 sales reps across Canada.
you were
Like
hardcore.
we were base like ground level door knocking telemarketing. You learn from grassroots, real sales skills tactics.
Yeah,
So I feel that gave me a breath of fresh air when I started this company 8 years ago.
yeah.
Without that, I don't think I would be able to.
I think more entrepreneurs or people who are trying to be entrepreneurial should do sales for 6 months to a year, because if they're not good at sales, they'll never be good as an entrepreneur. You're selling your customers, you're selling your suppliers, you're selling your employees, you're selling yourself, you're getting the media to write about you. Like if you can't sell, you're dead in the water.
Exactly. So growing up, I know your parents kind of push you to become entrepreneurs. Did you study business finance? Did you take on jobs and roles before you kind of started your own at
Uh,
21 or 25?
You're the only one who's ever asked me if I studied business finance. I struggle with numbers. I have a form of dyslexia called dyscalculia, and all of my numbers flip around on me. So I really struggled with finance side of the business. And no, I actually hired a student to do all my accounting assignments for me in second year university, and I paid him in beer. But that same course that I cheated in, I'm actually written up in their textbook now. And I told the writer of the textbook that I cheated, and she thought it was hilarious. No, I know how to hire a good accountant. I know how to hire good finance people. I know how to ask them the questions and get them to give me the data points that I want, but I really am not good at the finance side. What I also didn't study business in school. I got involved in a group called College Pro Painters, and I ran a franchise for College Pro for 3 years. And then I worked for the head office of College Pro, coaching franchisees. I started coaching entrepreneurs 31 years ago in 1989. So I that was really where I was groomed as an entrepreneur, was at College Pro Painters.
And but while looking back, do you feel like your parents were the biggest mentors in your life? Like biggest advocates, the ones that really push you to pursue your dreams and passions?
Yeah, my parents for sure. I was very fortunate that I had parents who were keen and driven and tenacious and entrepreneurial, and they encouraged me to do that. And I got a lot of encouragement. I wouldn't say that I got a lot. Well, I got a lot of praise along the way too. But no, I would say the biggest mentor that I had was College Pro Painters would have been my big mentor, and then joining a lot of masterminds. I've gone to the main TED conference, the 5-day one for 9 years. I've been in Strategic Coach for 7 years. I was in the Genius Network for 6 years. I've gone to Baby Bathwater 3 times, Mastermind Talks 5 times, War Room. So I'm deep into these mastermind communities where I try to not be the smartest person in the room and just sponge off of all these other smart people. My dad told me when I was young that my R&D should stand for rip off and duplicate. So I try to take the best ideas from the smartest people and run with them.
But that's how successful business owners operate, right? Hire people smarter than you and let them be the expert, own up to it, become true leaders by letting them figure it out, right?
Yeah, and if I don't hire them, then there's no reason. Like I can still learn from them. They're out there, and most of us want to help other people. We're kind of hardwired as humans to help people. So I think I've always been kind of that kind of person too. That I will look for others instead of trying to figure it out for myself.
So on that note, on masterminds, was there one specific one, or is there a particular one that you would recommend for entrepreneurs to gravitate and try out, or is there one based on where they're at in their business, what
Yeah, they're
gaps they
very
have?
well. They're very different. So every mastermind community has a different focus. So as an example, Strategic Coach, you're very much working on your business and on the systems. Genius Network is very much about connections and community and business development and digital marketing. War Room is hardcore digital marketing with companies that are typically a little bit bigger. Baby Bathwater, there's a lot of stuff on communities. So it really depends. TED is just very, very, very high level networking, at the highest level where you're meeting with, Sergey Brin and Steve Jurvetson and really solid C-level execs, which is powerful. So I think there's value in all of them. The one thing that I will mention that I think is interesting, I've just launched a course called Invest in Your Leaders. And my whole reason for launching the course was I think most entrepreneurs are good at growing their skills, but we often miss the opportunity to grow our leaders' skills. And the more that we grow and invest in the skill set of our managers and leaders, the more they'll grow our company. And it's almost like all of our managers are climbing up two ladders. You know, and one ladder is the skills ladder, and they've got one hand and one foot on the skills ladder. And then the other one is the confidence ladder. And if the confidence ladder is shaking, they won't get any more skills. So we have to build their confidence and build their skills. And I just seen so many entrepreneurs work on themselves, but they miss the opportunity to really invest in their leaders as well. So that was the reason for me launching that course.
That's amazing. We can talk more about that as well.
Sure.
Regarding that course, so how long has it been since you started, and is it available?
It's launching March 1st. So by the time that this episode is live, it will be launching. So I haven't actually talked about it publicly. You're the first time I've talked about it publicly. We're in beta right now. I run an organization called the COO Alliance, and I've only rolled it out to about a fifth of my members in that this week as in beta. We rolled it out 2 days ago, getting huge response. And then I'll be rolling it out to the rest of my members next Monday. But yeah, it'll be available March 1st. It contains all of the soft skills that every leader needs to grow. So it has skills on situational leadership, coaching, delegation, time management, conflict management, project management, one-on-one meetings, interviewing, like all of the skills that managers and leaders really need, and no one's ever trained them in. And it's done as a kind of a learn as you go. There's videos and written content and pre and post tests. And it's all of the skills that I use to grow 1-800-GOT-JUNK's leadership teams and also at College Pro Painters as well. And then also the skills that I've probably been coaching, CEOs and their teams with globally for 14 years.
And that's amazing. So, growing up, did you dream of doing what you're doing now?
No, I didn't. I didn't ever think that I would be. Um, I didn't understand what communities were growing up. I knew I would be an entrepreneur. There was no doubt that I would be an entrepreneur. I never liked working for other people, and even when I was trying to run their business for them. Um, but I didn't think I would be doing. I certainly didn't think I would be an author. I had no desire to write a book, and I've now written 5 books, and I have 2 more that I'm working on the content for. So I think what's happened is my core purpose was so clear. Simon Sinek, who popularized the idea of the core purpose, Simon was on our board at 1-800-GOT-JUNK 5 years before he did his TED Talk. So I had a lot of time to understand this whole start with why and core purpose. And my core purpose has always been to help entrepreneurs make their dreams happen. So my books help them, my coaching helps them, my Second in Command podcast helps them, my Invest in Your Leaders course helps them. Everything I do is consistent with that core purpose. So I don't think I knew what I would be doing, but I certainly knew I would be an entrepreneur.
That's amazing. After doing so many different things in your
Mhm.
life, um, do you find that that core purpose is still there, or has it kind of changed and evolved into something bigger?
No, it's always been there. And in fact, Simon actually helped me figure out my core purpose probably 2007, right after I left 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And we were talking about why did I love growing 1-800-GOT-JUNK? And it was helping Brian and it was helping all the franchisees. And then why did I love College Pro Painters? It was helping the franchisees. And Kimball Musk worked for me back in 1993, and so did his brother or cousin Peter Reeve, who built Solar City. So I've always and then even when Boyd Auto Body helping Terry build his business, it's always to help these entrepreneurs. So it's gone back until, if I went back to when it started, even in my first job, I was 13 and I was helping the professional, the pro who ran the golf shop and the guy who ran the restaurant. I really wanted to help them make their businesses successful. So it's always been there hardwired since I was very, very young. And then even some of my first little, weekend jobs working for my dad, I was helping him, so I think I've been hardwired to just do that from the very beginning.
Um, so on a side note, so how does your typical day look like today versus 10, 15 years ago when you were at these other organizations?
I definitely delegate more, and I look for opportunities to get I think of every project like a satellite. If I get that satellite in orbit, it just stays there. So I try to get things that are done and up and running, and that momentum creates momentum. So I always think about what things can we do that will be up and running and create momentum, and how do I delegate more and outsource more, and how can we start leveraging AI. So I'm probably doing less and delegating and growing people more.
I see. So strategically,
Yeah,
trying to elevate your game, I
yeah.
guess,
I
amplify more.
Well, and I used to be very that kind of radical self-reliant that I could do it. So because I could do so many
A
things, I
type.
just did them. Whereas now what I'm realizing is it needs to get done, but not by me. So the more that I can think of things and delegate, and if I get those projects up and running, so it's more that I'm doing now. So I do a lot of coaching my team and growing their skills and growing their confidence, cheering them on and giving them more to do.
Amazing. Um, is there challenges that you faced? And I'm sure over the years there's been a lot of ups and downs. Can you think of some of the major challenges that you had to overcome, or problems that you had to face, and give us some solutions that you kind of
Yeah,
discuss?
like do you want major challenges running my current business or running 1-800 got junk, or what kinds of challenges?
Both, whatever, like, because there's hurdles, right?
Yeah,
And as an
yeah,
entrepreneur, I'm sure every day there's decisive decisions every single day.
well,
And
yeah,
can you think of things that can really help the listeners to kind of go through, like, what did you do to overcome it? Could you have done things differently? And the solution.
sure. I think of the hurdles, the natural hurdles that come into business with their ones and threes. At every one and at every three is another hurdle. So when you start the business, it's just you have one person. When you got three, you can kind of divide and conquer. When you have 10, you probably have your first manager. When you have 30, you probably got your first management team. When you have 100, you have a leadership team and you've got company politics creeping in. When you've got 300, you've got matrix decision making and complexity with the finance. When you have 1,000, you've got boards. And oh, and then even on the revenue side of the business, right? When you have 100,000 to 300,000 to 1 million to 3 million to do that kind of thing, you have the natural hurdles. So you have things to deal with like cash flow and things to deal with like risk mitigation. And um, so I think as a leader, we just have to continue to grow, and I just then try to anticipate those hurdles as much as I can.
I see. And your sweet spot, like you mentioned, is between 50 to 500 employees.
Yeah, 50 to 500 is really my sweet spot now. Certainly to guide them, not necessarily to be in there running them. So I've coached the CEO of Sprint. I coached the second in command at Sprint. That was way outside of my sandbox, but I coached the second in command at Sprint for 18 months. I've coached some good sized technology companies, but I think the sweet spot is usually in that 50 to 500 where they don't yet have the really seasoned leadership team that has already done it 2 or 3 times. So I'm helping them form the team and grow the team and align the team, et cetera.
Gotcha. I know we talked about like that why purpose thing, right? So what really drives you as Cameron? Like, motivates you to get up every single day to want to help these entrepreneurs?
Um, I just feel like most entrepreneurs are like a fly and they're banging their head on the window, and they're going to try really really hard, but there's an easier path, and if they just turn and go out the door that's right beside them, it's so I see the shortcuts, and I don't want people to have to work and spin their wheels when they don't have to. I've seen how when you do it smart and when you leverage and when you build a great culture, that everything is easier. And then I've seen entrepreneurs doing the exact same business, probably my lessons from college pro painters, where for some it was so simple and for others it was so complicated. And it was the same job, but they overcomplicated things. And if they would just follow the systems, it was simple.
Yeah, and I think when you're in it, it's so hard to see what is potentially available to you, right? And there's
Yeah.
gaps and opportunities. And that's what I found. Like, so I've been doing this agency world for 8 years, And just the last couple years, I've been stepping back instead of being in the trenches. I've been now looking at it as a business, right? And understanding what I need. And so I self-reflect. I always ask, right? I always trying to figure out like what are productivity skill sets, what are efficiency, things that we can
Yeah.
always get better at.
Well, and what's interesting is a lot of entrepreneurs don't know what those answers are. So as long as they know where they're going, then we can help them reverse engineer that goal and figure out how to get there. But a lot of entrepreneurs don't know the hacks. They don't know the systems to look for. They're not even aware of what could exist already to know that it exists. I was speaking with my sister the other day. She's got a 78-person company based in Toronto, solid entrepreneur, built it for 25 years. And I was talking about some marketing stuff. She's like, fuck, I've never even heard of these things. So she doesn't even understand that some of those marketing, not even tactics, they're pretty easy to implement tools. She wasn't even aware they existed. So it's sometimes hard for entrepreneurs to see that. And I don't want them to have to learn from failure if they can learn from other people's failures. There's no reason for someone to have to fail forward if they can avoid failure in the first place.
And do you find a lot of entrepreneurs are willing to seek help or even understand there's a gap or an opportunity? Like that's the biggest challenge,
Yep.
right? To have them acknowledge it themselves.
Usually, and you just said it, which is usually they have to create their own gap. They have to trip and fail once and then they'll say, okay, teach me. It's like the child who wants to go ride their bicycle by themselves, and then they fall over for the first time, and then they turn to their mom or dad and they say, teach me. But they had to fall first. And most entrepreneurs need to fail or screw something up. Like I just had a call today with a company in Germany, 31 million in revenue. 2 years ago, they were 20 million in revenue with a $5 million EBITDA. This year, they're 30 million in revenue and they lost money. I'm like, what? How do you possibly lose money when you made 5 million 2 years ago? But they made all the classic mistakes. So when I walked them through everything, he realized how many mistakes were avoidable. And now he's like, coach me. So he's signing up for me to coach him for the year. It'll be really easy for me to help turn them around because his proof of concept is good, his team is good, his product is good, but he doesn't understand how to run he's now got 35 employees. He doesn't understand how to run that company.
Yeah. And a lot of people are like stretched, right? So they're spinning wheels, they're over spending too much time on the wrong things and they don't even acknowledge it because they're so in the trenches, I would say.
And because they're very much in that trench and in that kind of day to day, they don't see the forest for the trees, right? They don't see the easier potential path that they could be taking. It's too bad.
Yeah. And I love that you have a lot of experience and that's what supersedes everything, right? Like a lot of people are book smart. They say they're experts, but they don't have real life, case studies or a good reputation or whatever it may be. So I love the fact that you've done it. You have a proof of concept. You have a good, social proof, right?
A lot of social proof. Yeah, what's interesting for me is that because I coach so many companies, but I don't even know their business or their industry, that I've really learned the art and the science of building a great company, regardless of what the product or service is. And I think that's starting to become very powerful as well. There's lots of industry experts that maybe have industry IP. That's not what I do. I have the IP of how to build a great company and how to build a great company culture and how to grow your leaders and grow really strong. When you grow a really strong management team, they'll grow your company for you. That's where my strength lies. And I think I've been very fortunate to stay focused on that.
That's amazing. So just a couple other questions, Cameron. So aside from business, what are some of the other things that you're really passionate about? Like what modes you? I know you have children, you spend time with that. What else do you do?
Yeah, I love my kids. I mean, my kids are 19 and 17, and we're doing a lot of fun stuff together. We're heading off on a ski trip again in a couple of weeks. I spend a lot of time traveling. I mean, before COVID, I went to 14 countries in 2019, and even during COVID, I've been to 4 countries. So I love travel, love cooking, like to golf, play tennis, hike, that kind of stuff. I got my hip replaced 11 months ago, so I have been not able to do any of my running anymore, but I'm still doing a lot of hiking and golfing and skiing, which is great.
That's amazing. I mean, living out west, I know you spend a lot of time outdoors, and I've kind of missed it. Like it's harder when you're kind of restricted to a lot of things and activities, but hopefully things open up again. Um, and for me, I know you're big as giving, right? Like it seems like your purpose is really to help entrepreneurs, right? You give and
Yep.
you want to help them elevate as long as they're a good fit, right? They have to be in the right mindset, and they have to have a really good vision, real good value prop, and understanding like it's not all about them, right? It's not all about money. It's not all about, there has to be a bigger purpose.
Yeah,
So
for
how do
sure.
you align that with the type of clients that you deal with?
So I say no as often as I say yes to potential coaching clients. My criteria is they have to be young, fun, entrepreneurial, high viral, high growth, pre-public. Young meaning young at heart, not young of age. But young, fun. Like I don't want to work in a boring blue collar manufacturing. Ugh. They've got to be a leader or a team that are going to have a good time and build something. I love viral growth. I'm very good at fast growth. So even at 1-800-GOT-JUNK, we grew 6 consecutive years of 100% revenue growth. At College Pro Painters, we had to hire 8,800 people every year, and we had to do it in 4 months every single year. There's not a lot of companies out there that have hired 8,800 people a year. So I'm very, very good at fast growth. I'm very good at putting the systems in place. I just look for the companies that I can do that with.
That's amazing. And then just finding people that resonate with you, I'm sure, and
Yeah,
value.
a lot of that happens because I've become more of a public figure. I've been paid to do speaking events in 28 countries. So people hire me to speak now, and I've been doing speaking events over Zoom and video for years, probably 8 years over video. So I get a lot of connections into groups and industry conferences and that kind of thing, and even to entrepreneurial companies, they'll hire me to speak to their teams, and that's a good way for me to get to find the right clients, but also know the clients that I fit with as well. And then even from some of the masterminds that I'm involved with, I get a lot of clients from that without going there to try to find clients.
That's amazing. And that's the best thing, right? People see you out as a industry leader, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so last couple questions, sorry, Cameron. Wanted to ask you, what does success mean to you? And how do you put that into reality? Like it could be wealth, it could be anything, friendship, relationships, experience. What does success mean?
I think a success is being able to use your skills and your talents and your passion to drive towards some goals so that you're able to do something that fulfills you and drives you, but it's not for the money. It's the pursuit of excellence or the pursuit of building or the pursuit of something fun. I mean, that's success because I have found the stuff that I love and the stuff that I'm good at, and I'm focusing on doing more of that, and that's where the money comes from. The money for me has always come pretty easy, right? Because I've focused on the stuff that fulfills me and worked with companies that fill me. In fact, I had a coaching client, one of my very first coaching clients 14 years ago, called Nurse Next Door. I taught them how to franchise and taught them how to get PR and how to build their culture. The CEO at Nurse Next Door gave me shit one night because I was talking about how much money I was getting paid, and he said, "Stop talking about money and the money will follow you. But the more you talk about money, the less it'll be there." And for me, that's become very, very true. Everything I've done has just gotten easier and faster and bigger by
Yes,
focusing on my customers.
exactly. And giving value, right? Providing like and listening. What do they really want? Just answer
Yeah,
the problems and be there when they're ready,
I
right?
learned I learned that from my dad. My dad was one of my dad's first lessons to me as an entrepreneur was ask your clients what they want to buy and sell it to them.
Simple.
Okay,
It's not rocket science. Supply
right.
demand. That's
That's
simply
it.
economics, right? 101.
Yeah,
So people overcomplicate things. They
yeah I
spend
think
too much time and they don't really get to the nitty gritty of what are they trying to provide, products, say, service, whatever it may be.
yeah, it gets so much simpler, right?
Exactly. Last question. Wanted
Mhm.
to ask, next 5, 10 year horizon, what's in line for you?
What's in line for me next 5 to 10 years? Well, one is I'm beginning to make plans to start living globally. So a bit of the global nomad lifestyle where I'll be I'll be in North America 1 month every quarter, and I'll be living mostly in Europe and Latin America, South America, 2 months out of every quarter. So that's the first one. Second one is really growing my COO Alliance, this network for second in commands, where we've got members now from 9 countries, and really kind of you need 5 million in revenue, so it's good sized companies that are joining with putting their COO in. And then my course, the Invest in Your Leaders course. I think there's a really big opportunity for companies to grow their managers and leaders. And the content that I'm teaching has never been pulled together in an easy to digestible way for them to learn.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love your vision. I love your goals. I love, success, right? And you've harvested a lot of that. So where can some of the listeners get a hold of you, your business, or reach out to you directly?
Yeah, my main website is CameronHerold.com, and then there's also the COOalliance.com. They can get a lot of my good content from any of my 5 books that are on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. And then the Second in Command podcast, for sure, they should check out, where we only interview COOs. And then the course, as I mentioned, the Invest in Your Leaders course.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Cameron. I really appreciate it. I know you shared some great valuable insight about your journey, about your successes, and some of the things that a lot of entrepreneurs would love to hear more of course. And definitely they can reach out to you. So the show notes will be there. They can reach out to you. Is there any final notes that you would like to add?
No, I don't think so. I just wanted to be able to share with them and hopefully to inspire them as well. So I think that's been helpful. I really appreciate it. Send me the link when this goes live so I can share it as well.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, Cameron.
You're welcome. Thanks, John.